The Daily Telegraph revealed exclusively today the extent of Greens Leader Adam Bandt's extravagant spending spree, at your expense, of course. The figures are eye-watering. Adam Bandt's annual expense bill for 2022 was more than $960,000. And that's not including his $314,000 salary and the wages of his personal staff. He spent more than $200,000 on printing costs. The global warming warrior, who warns us incessantly about catastrophic climate change, chartered private jets, including spending $15,000 of taxpayer money on a private plane between Canberra and Brisbane. Are there no commercial flights between Canberra and Brisbane these days? Let's bring in Sophie Elsworth, media writer for The Australian. Sophie, the expenses here, let's go through them because there's quite a few to wrap your head around. $372,000 in staff travel expenses, $204,000 printing costs, $57,000 on domestic flights, $29,000 on Comcar trips, $23,000 on 2 private jet flights and $12,000 on a government-provided vehicle and petrol allowance. And, of course, we've got the salary on top of that. Now, this would be perhaps acceptable if Bandt and the Greens weren't pushing mad net zero policies and demanding that everybody else, the average citizen, reduce their carbon footprint.
Well, Rita, isn't this hypocritical that Adam Bandt, who's pushing for very quick net zero targets, he really, in many cases, has this whole climate crisis going on that he's always pushing, and yet he's flying around on chartered flights. He has a petrol allowance, which is quite ironic, isn't it?
You know what I didn't
spending
see here?
up.
Allowance for a Mikey card, because he can be catching trains and trams.
Be good.
In Melbourne, and I'm sure there's alternatives in other cities.
Exactly, Rita, but this never passed the pub test. And if he's going to say, we should move away from fossil fuels, we should move to electric vehicles, that's absolutely fine, but he needs to practice what he preaches. And it appears in some of these cases, why wasn't he catching domestic flights? Were they not available? Was his office not organised enough? This does not pass the pub test, Rita.
Well, certainly that flight between Brisbane and Canberra is raising plenty of eyebrows. If it wasn't timely, wait till the next day. I mean, if you are saying there is a climate crisis, we've got to get rid of our gas cooktops, we've got to end fossil fuels, we can't have any mining, then you can't be chartering private flights when there's other options available. Now, let's talk about Melbourne and the Moomba parade. Eddie Maguire has joined the backlash against the Melbourne City Council's decision to cancel the iconic Moomba parade. Why? Because apparently it was too hot. Where Eddie said, we've got to stop cancelling things in this town. We've shown the resilience of a limp lettuce leaf. The council pulled the pin after the city was forecast to reach 38 degrees on Monday, but the parade was going to be taking place in the morning. And Sophie, the Moomba Festival organisers have said that they must prioritise people's health and safety, but surely crowds who are attending can make that decision for themselves. And as for the participants, they can also decide whether they're up to it or not. And if the parade's in the morning, really, is this too much for us to handle?
Rita, we as Victorians and Australians are used to hot weather. This is not a new thing. And I was looking at the news bulletin last night that said it reached 35 degrees.
Oh,
now, that is not that hot.
No.
We get well over 40 on very hot days here. And where is the onus on the people themselves to say, OK, if they want to come along to Moomba, great. They will bring sunscreen. They can bring water. We're adults. We're not complete idiots. Let us make our own minds up. And this was really damaging, Rita, this decision to a lot of businesses who were relying on this foot traffic into the city. They paid the price here.